Okay, as the slide says, I'm from the Ombudsman, ACT Ombudsman's office. The ACT Ombudsman is also the Commonwealth Ombudsman. So, and he wears several hats. He's also the Defence Force Ombudsman and a variety of other agencies, but he wears individual hats for individual roles, including the ACT. So next slide, please. And what we'll discuss tonight, right to complain, who can complain, role of the Commonwealth and ACT Ombudsman, complaint investigations, and how to contact us. And unlike my climate change friend who frightened the hell out of all of us, I've got gifts. Okay, right to complain. Basically anybody can complain to the Ombudsman about problems with Australian and ACT government administration. But regardless of what you're complaining about, if you're unsure, it's important to start asking questions early. If you've got concerns or if you're worried, ask a provider, ask an agency you're involved with. If you are unhappy with our service or a decision, you can if you're unhappy with the service, you can contact us. And with us, we actively encourage you to complain about us. Now that may sound funny, but the way we improve the nature of our business is by finding out how good that business is. And unfortunately in the Ombudsman's office you only hear the bad stories. You only hear people who complain about an agency because they did something wrong. We rarely get much follow-up from people who've had a good experience after a question with us. And we spend, I won't say a lot of time, but we do spend some time trying to chase up that information. And the review of, doesn't matter. Reviews of decisions can be arranged by senior staff. So if, for example, I managed a complaint that you had and you weren't happy with the outcome, you could ask me to review my own decision, which again sounds funny, but it's basically the way we do business. If you weren't satisfied with my response again, I'm required to pass that to a senior staffer. And just so you know, most investigation officers in the Ombudsman's office, if they have any concern with the way they do an investigation, they generally will include either peer review, it can be a subordinate review, or it can be a senior review anyway. So we generally will go through that self-assessment task. So the role of the Ombudsman, we investigate complaints about the actions and decisions of government agencies, and we look for solutions to problems people have with the agencies. So it's not just, I'm not happy with the bus service, it's, okay, you weren't happy with the bus service, how can that service be improved? And we can't change it, we can't make Action put on a new route to a specific street in Watson, but we can encourage them to consider ways to do their business better. We're free, we're fair, we're independent and we're impartial. We are not advocates, and it's very important to understand that. We listen to both sides of the argument. If you have a complaint, we listen to what you have to say, hopefully you'll provide it in writing and give us some details, and then we will contact the agency concerned and we will ask them for information. But we abide by the administrative law principles, so basically what's fair and reasonable. And we give both sides of that argument. So we give the opportunity to the agency to explain what decision they made and why they made it. Next please. What we can investigate. We can investigate complaints about the actions and decisions of directorates and authorities to see if they are wrong, unjust, unlawful, discriminatory or unfair. The Ombudsman also seeks remedies for those affected by deficient administration and acts to improve general public administration. So again, part of what I was talking about before. We can investigate complaints, and this is predominantly ACT, the actions and decisions of many government agencies, and include things like parking, ACT corrections, building licences and inspections, contract and tender disputes, planning, public housing, debt recovery, motor vehicle registration, public transport, legal aid and others. The big three, just if anybody is interested in Canberra, it's ACT housing, of course because of the nature of the business they do, ACT policing, again because of the nature of their business, and ACT corrections. And they're our big three. Not because they do a bad job, because of the nature of their work. We've got strong investigative powers. The Ombudsman, if he wields his big stick, and I'm saying he because at the moment it's Colin Neve, we basically have the investigative powers of a Royal Commission. We can compel witnesses. I have interviewed AFP officers under oath. So we have very strong powers on what we can and can't investigate. If justified, officers working in the government agencies must produce documents and answer questions. We can compel, as I said, we can compel witnesses to conduct interviews under oath. Complaint investigations. They're confidential and in private. What that means is...
So just the witnesses you can compel, are they only government employees or are they anyone in the public?
No. I can't compel you to give evidence, but I can compel a government employee to.
Okay, so it's only government employees.
Only government employees or Commonwealth contracted providers. So in the immigration space it would have been Serco or Transfield or somebody like that who are contracted by an agency to provide a service. Does that make sense?
Does that happen for the ACT as well? Like if the ACT is contracted to somebody? Or?
In some cases, yes, and I can't answer that off the top of my head. I've been with the Ombudsman's office for nearly 8 years. I've been with the ACT Ombudsman since February. So I'm still learning the ropes as far as ACT jurisdictions goes, but there are some contracted providers we do have power over, others, and it's the way the contracts are struck, that we can't compel. Okay, so as I say, confidential and private. And what this means is you can provide us with a complaint and we can ask questions of an agency. If you wish us not to do this, we do not have to tell that agency who you are. Okay? The flip side of that is we don't have to show you every piece of evidence that they give us. So, confidential and private. But we're not advocates for either side, and we're fair and impartial. So what we do is we try and answer your questions to the best of our ability, but in private. We gather information from both sides, assess the lawfulness and reasonableness of the actions. Possible remedies for a complaint can include a decision changed or a better explanation. We can't make a decision for a department. If somebody denies access to an entitlement, we can't tell that agency they need to change that decision. But we can ask for a better explanation or ask them to reconsider if we think it's wrong. We can seek an apology, a refund in some instances, or procedure process or a law change. This last one is a big one, and that can take many, many months. So just bear that in mind if you contact us. Next one, please. As this says, we strongly recommend, and in most cases will insist, that you contact the agency in the first instance. That's because if the issue is urgent, let's use ACT Housing as an example, we can't give somebody a government house. ACT Housing must do that. So in order for it to be a quick resolution to a question, it's best if you deal directly with the agency in the first instance. And that's why we generally will insist you do that. They are the best placed to fix the problem. Okay? Next slide, please. Suggestions and tips. Okay, if you do have to contact us, and I'm probably preaching to the converted a little bit here, focus on the main problem or issue. Writing is the most effective way. It allows you to get all that information down on paper or in an email. What to include, be clear about what the problem was, stick to the main facts, consider a chronology. I've found chronologies, if I'm talking to somebody on the phone, for example, and I've dealt with many, many complainants over the phone, if I can get them to just sit back for a little bit and try and think about when these things occurred, then it actually gets more detail into the story they tell. Helps people on track. Copy of any decisions and documents, anything with a signature on it, anything with where a decision or a, particularly if you think a decision is wrong, anything with that is always useful. State what would you like But be realistic, all right? If you're a single parent, there's no point asking for a 5-bedroom house because your in-laws may visit. So that's the sort of stuff we try and concentrate on, keep records, and don't give up until it's time to let go. We deal with a lot of people who get something that they're passionate about and they just won't let go. And I've seen people where it's actually been detrimental to their health. I worked for the Department of Defence for 26 years. I used to do discretionary remedies, which was dealing with compensation for defective administration, act of grace payments and debt waiver applications. And I saw countless cases where very smart, intelligent people were just about driving themselves to another grave because they had this little thing that they wouldn't let go of. So, personally, it's the most important thing. Know when to let go. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is how you contact us. The reason we've got email first is because that's what we prefer. But if you need to jump on the phone, jump on the phone. There's the website will provide a lot of details on how you can get there. I've brought some brochures on how to make a complaint to the ACT Ombudsman. The website also gives you access to the Commonwealth Ombudsman, as I said. So if you've got an issue with the Commonwealth agency, you'll find it through here as well. And I think that's it. Questions?
How is your funding affected when things like the Environmental Defenders Office, for example, gets stripped of funding, first by the Commonwealth and now by the ACT? Is your agency also vulnerable to those cuts?
Look, I'm going to say any government agency is vulnerable to funding cuts.
So I was going to ask when you finished.
Oh.
I was going to say we actually made the Ombudsman an officer of the Assembly.
Oh.
So we took it out from being under the Attorney General's Department and made it directly responsible to the Assembly. This was a Greens initiative, and we did that because what it means is that the Parliament, not the Executive, sets the budget. It's a process that the Speaker leads through the Administration and Procedures Committee, so it's insulated from a minister getting involved with the Ombudsman's office. The other clarification I'll offer is the ACT government has never stripped money from the EDO. The EDO has never been funded by the ACT government. It was the Commonwealth that stripped money from the EDO. Some of us have advocated for the EDO to get money from the ACT government. It hasn't happened yet. The ACT government never took money off the EDO.
So, he's stolen the second half of the but that's okay, because it was more detailed than mine was going to be.
Sure. In asking this question, I probably need to just declare that I'm a member of the Civil and Administration Tribunal, as a community member. So I was just interested in terms of the interaction between the work of ACAT and also the ACT Human Rights Office in terms of some of the discrimination cases, and so what the interaction is with the work of the Ombudsman's Office and those two agencies.
Okay, look, as I said, I've only been part of the ACT Ombudsman for a very, very short period of time. My only involvement with human rights in the ACT, for example, is out of prison. And I actually finish up next Thursday. So I've been sort of, not sidelined, but I haven't got involved in a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next 12 months in the ACT Ombudsman jurisdiction. So I really can't answer your question with any authority, if you like. I'm sorry. But look, we are working hard, or the team are working hard to improve the relationship with the ACT Ombudsman and other oversight partners, if you like, and try and be a little bit more collegiate. At the moment, we sort of, well, for a little while now, we've sort of been on the periphery a bit. We're trying to get a bit more involved.
Great, yeah, thanks.
John?
Yeah, you mentioned remedies.
Yep.
Does the Ombudsman's Office ever recommend to the DPP that charges should be laid, particularly in the case of defective or basically crook or corrupt action by police has been alleged and can be proved?
Okay. The slide I didn't have up there, which I noticed halfway through, was what we can't do. We don't have jurisdiction over courts and ministers. Now, DPP, a little bit different. I did Australian Federal Police complaints for 3.5 years. We did make certain recommendations on certain things that we saw, but at the end of the day, that is a decision for a court to make, a magistrate to make, the DPP to make. Again, we can't direct somebody to make a decision. We make recommendations and suggestions.
The classic conundrum is where the police have deliberately lied or been involved in crook activity, and then they refer it to themselves, and then the police say, we're not going to investigate that. They'll investigate some sideline, and they finish up with a remedy of a refund.
Right. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, I can't answer
your
question.
I'm asking a question.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, you're saying like obviously your jurisdiction stops at ministerial level. What happens when, say, for a minister uses a call-in power over an administrative decision, like say in planning decisions? Where do you start and stop in that process? Look,
on the planning, I have absolutely no experience in that, and
right.
I would hate to give an incorrect answer. This is going to sound like a fob-off. You're more than welcome to contact the office, because there will be somebody there that can answer that.
Okay.
I think if I followed up on that, I think that there's a lot of issues related to planning. We find ourselves. I suppose one general thing too is like, and I guess maybe it's an order of things. You know, a number of planning decisions. A lot of times you just get thrown into the ACAT sort of setup. I mean, is there any? If we're going to even think about going to the Ombudsman, is it before or after? Or
it's after.
It's after.
Okay. Absolutely after.
Okay, so...
Because if you haven't been there first, chances are we're going to ask you to go there.
Okay, so ACAT would be first, and then... Okay.
I'm just wondering how much time or how much resources would you be able to put into a particular complaint? And the reason I ask that is because I've been looking into or trying to understand how Roads ACT or the ACT government has been managing roads in the ACT for about 5 years. And
right. You don't have much of a social life, do you?
Well, it's an on and off thing. But the more it progresses, the more confused I get. And the latest sort of understanding that I've got is that certain areas of Roads ACT have been basing their management on a consultant's report that was 13 years old, which has incorrect speed limits. And, you know, and I'm sort of wondering how far you have the resources to dig down into how things are actually done and the basis of things, or is it like, well, yeah, in terms of the resources that you'd have?
Okay, this is going to sound like a bunch of government speak, and it's not. We're a relatively small agency. We're about half the size of the New South Wales Ombudsman.
Yeah.
Okay. In the ACT space...
So when you say we, that's Commonwealth and ACT?
Commonwealth and ACT. Okay. Having said that, I think we're appropriately resourced. So, with any particular complaint or any particular concern or question that comes to us, the office will give it whatever resources it needs to accomplish an outcome. Now, it may not be an outcome every individual likes. For example, if we were to get a complaint about the number of trees that were planted in Canberra, we have to ask ourselves, what outcome can we reach here that's going to be reasonable? It's certainly not going to be something most people in this room are going to be happy with. So we need to work out a resource structure that's going to allow us to investigate that complaint and provide an outcome that's reasonable. Roads, I could possibly tie up 10 people for 12 months and still not answer your question.
Well, yeah,
so we have to sit back and go, okay, what's more important? Is it more important that we provide resources to an issue that's occurred in the AMC or to an ACT housing issue, or a number of human services complaints that we've got on hand at the moment? So it's a balancing act that we do. At the moment, ACT Ombudsman, there's 2 of us in the strategic team, and I'm about to walk out the door in a week. I'm being replaced, but there's also going to be a placement for an APS 6 and possibly another, because we recognise that there's a fair amount of work to do in the ACT if we want to push the envelope a little bit. Okay, I know it doesn't answer your question, but I'll give you 2 examples. I was asked to do a review of use of force on Christmas I was doing police complaints at the time, and I was the only person involved in that review other than my management structure. Now, a lot of people queried that, including the Human Rights Commissioner and a couple of other advocates. They said, but how can one person adequately investigate that complaint? From an Ombudsman perspective, it was one person and my management chain, so there was 3 or 4 people involved with it. But I also had a great deal of assistance from the department and a great deal of assistance from the service contractors involved. Now, sceptics could say, yeah, but they're going to, of course the department's going to provide you resources because they want a certain thing to happen. Same as the police, well, they're going to do that. But that's what we do. We investigate the actions of government agencies. In other cases, there were 3 of us who were working on something that was relatively minor. But for us, it was an important piece of work. So I come back to that. We throw whatever resources we necessarily need to throw at it. But the ultimate decision will be for the Deputy and the Ombudsman to make. Because they're the ones that control the budget, if you like, or how much is spent.
But you just said that you thought, you know, his social life was important, right? So that's part of the priority.
Oh, I didn't think it was important. I just didn't think you had one.
But he's no
It's very nasty.
Your partner's watching online, right?
Yeah, she was. I don't know what happened.
You just mentioned budget, and I'm an accountant, so I was just curious. How do you split the costs between the ACT and the Commonwealth? Do you ever say, look, the ACT side of things run out of money, we can't do any more investigating, the Commonwealth's got plenty? No, how does that happen?
It's completely separate, as was highlighted before. The budget for the ACT Ombudsman function is separate to the budget for the Commonwealth Ombudsman.
But it's the same people doing...
No, not necessarily. From an investigations perspective, we have investigation officers in our operations team that will be doing ACT complaints and Commonwealth complaints, yes, but it's still a separate function.
So if the Commonwealth says, well, we're cutting your budget in half, what, the ACT doesn't, what do you do then? Do you do less Commonwealth work?
I'm not going to answer that. Yes.
Thanks. I was surprised by your comment before when someone asked whether they should go to ACAT or the Ombudsman first, because I understand the Ombudsman's role is to try and mediate an outcome between a complainant and an agency. And
I wouldn't use the term mediate.
Well,
no, that's okay.
An alternative dispute resolution mechanism, whereas going to court, which is what ACAT is a fairly finalising and adversarial approach. So I'm interested, I was surprised you said that.
Like I said earlier, I don't have a massive amount of experience in the ACT space. I've only been there a little while. Generally, look, it depends. It depends what the circumstances were. It depends what the complaint was about, on whether or not we refer them back to that.
I would just think that you wouldn't have a lot. If it had gone through an ACAT process around, questions of law and all of that sort of stuff, there may not be a lot.
Well, there may not be anything at all we could do.
Whereas I don't work in the area that housing that would be one that you might be dealing with, but yeah, you'd sort of be wanting for if you're looking for an outcome, you'll get a decision on a point of law or something in ACAT, which is not necessarily focused on an outcome for people.
Sorry, just to sort of make a fine point on what Shane was saying. So in an ACAT situation, where you're talking about your powers to overturn a bad decision, right, for example, right? So are you trying to draw a fine line between, is a dispute something where there was a decision and you don't agree with it and therefore you're actually challenging the outcome or the result, versus actually challenging an action of a department as opposed to the actual outcome? Because otherwise that doesn't make sense, because you sort of, like I said,
I'd need to see a particular issue, if you like, to give a firm decision. We're about administrative actions rather than legal decisions.
Right.
Is that a better explanation?
Oh, no, what I'm saying is if you've got an ACAT legal decision and the person's not happy with the outcome, you're actually saying you've got powers to overturn a bad decision. Does that include a decision that's made at law?
No.
Okay.
No. Right. We have no powers at all over the judiciary.
Just again, it's a query about the ACAT and about the Ombudsman's position, and I'll make this a hypothetical. If you went to ACAT and there were orders handed down, and those orders are not complied with, now the normal statement then is go back to the ACAT, but sometimes that's not. The ACAT process is a difficult process, and sometimes that is just a step too far to say go back to the ACAT to have the orders complied with. So does the Ombudsman step in then, or can it be brought to the Ombudsman, or if and I say it's a hypothetical, so let's assume that this is in negotiation. If the negotiation fails, what happens then?
Look, can I take a question on notice?
Sure.
I'm going to steal
You should.
I'm going to steal it in here because I think it is important,
Yeah.
and I'll find out the answer. And can I flick it through to you? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Or send it to the group and you can pass it on to the next meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I wasn't ignoring you. I was actually writing a note to myself.
I'll keep it to it.
Well, you'll keep the office to it because come next Thursday I'm no longer part of it. I promise you I will
It's really disappointing when people come along and say they're leaving.
Yeah.
No, that was mine.
No, well, I was actually blown off by a minister. I was supposed to be here a month ago, and that would have given me time to follow up anything, but that's okay.
There was a knock-on effect from a couple of months ago with... so I was just curious about your statement that New South Wales has twice as much.
Yep.
Why is that? Is it that they have twice as many complaints, or?
No, it's a much. How do I put this? In the ACT space, and this was a big eye-opener for me. There's a lot going on in ACT Ombudsman space, if you like, a lot more than I thought there was. And it's because the ACT Ombudsman is really, it's a council ombudsman, if you like. It's dealing with not just big ticket agencies, it's dealing with fix my street, I've got a problem with the road, you know, there's lighting out here. And for the ACT government, that's a massive ticket of things to look after. So if you picture New South Wales, which is much, much bigger, New South Wales Ombudsman has all of those problems to deal with, as well as their government agencies to deal with as well. Does that in part answer your question?
Yeah.
So with the Commonwealth Ombudsman, we've got broad agency stuff, if you like. So big ticket policies, big ticket things to look at. Whereas with the ACT Ombudsman, we're really looking at the grassroots of how the city operates and works. Or doesn't.
Right down to fix my street. Remember the whole organisation.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much for
Really good presentation.
very good presentation.
Oh,